I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Solvang City Council for May 29th, 2018.
Are you on?
Will you call the roll, please? I'm on.
Okay, I can hear you.
Councilmember Jameson,
Here.
Toussaint,
Here.
Waite,
Here.
Mayor Richardson,
Here.
and Councilmember Zimmerman is absent.
Thank you. Will you stand with me for the pledge, please? Place your hand over your heart and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Manager's report.
I'm just going to report on one thing, and that's to remind everyone that there will be another workshop tomorrow here at 6 o'clock on the Sunnyfield Spur bicycle trail options. So that'll be here at 6 o'clock. The consultant will be presenting the various alternatives and taking input.
Thank you. Next is public communications, written or verbal. At this time, please direct comments to the City Council regarding the consent calendar items or matters not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the Council. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. I have several speaker slips here. Esther Jacobson Bates.
Good evening, Mayor Jim, City Council members. I'm Esther Jacobson Bates with the Elverhoy Museum of History and Art, and just wanted to come in this evening to share a little bit about what's been going on recently at the museum. As most of you are aware, we have as our cornerstone the advocacy of history and culture and the arts. In 2018, we have a milestone year as we're celebrating 30 years of service to the community. Earlier this month, I traveled to Seattle. You may have seen a little bit in the paper about that, slow week, for grand opening festivities at the new Nordic Museum. I attended several invitation-only events and wanted to let you know a little bit about it. It was a rare gathering of dignitaries from all the Nordic countries, ambassadors, ministers from the embassies in Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, and Finland, and the Faroe Islands. The first event was hosted by the Danish ambassador. It was a small private party. And at that event, he had as a launch party the Crown Princess of Denmark, Princess Mary, to inaugurate a new chapter with a collaboration between Denmark and the U.S. and celebrating arts. So it's an initiative that aims to canvass the United States via 5 cities. That was New York, Chicago, Seattle, Houston, and Los Angeles. And overall, it was very much of a concentrated and concerted campaign to bring Danish culture kind of this side of the Rockies. And for us here in Solvang, this 3-year program that was inaugurated has potential benefits as we are fairly close proximity to Los Angeles and can probably piggyback back on some of the programming. The next day, there was a community cultural gathering. There was about 150 people that attended this event at their new museum. It's, and by the way, an amazing $50 million museum in Seattle on the waterfront there. The Secretary General of the Nordic nations led a panel discussion and had museum directors from Denmark, Finland, the Faroe Islands, and Sweden. That evening, there was the invitation-only gala, about 300 in attendance there, and keynote and speakers included Her Royal Highness Princess Mary, the President of Iceland, I'm not going to tell you his name because I can't read it, let alone pronounce it, and the Governor of Washington State and several other special speakers. But overall, the reason I'm sharing about this with you here today is it was just a unique opportunity to meet the leaders of so many Danish cultural organizations, to have one-on-one meetings with them and members of the Danish embassy and staff. And we could plan for a series of events and exhibitions. And I expect that these meetings and collaborations, whoops, am I out of time? Okay. Okay, I can. So exciting things coming because of this. And one of those things is that I had a phone meeting today with the Minister of Culture at the Embassy of Denmark in Washington, D.C. And the main thrust of that is that we're working on a special visit with the ambassador coming in late September here to Solvang to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the museum. And unless you have more questions, I've exceeded my time.
Will that be during Danish days?
No, that will not. It will be at the very end of the year. And I'm happy about that in the sense that he will be the main event, so to speak, as opposed to being a side event. And you will hear more about that from me. I will come back and share and give you invitations to that as well.
Thank you, Esther.
Okay, thank you.
Tracy Farhad?
I have a little bit of information I'll leave to share with you about the trip.
Okay. Followed by Ron Jones. Ron, it'll be straight. Well, go ahead. Tracy's not ready. Go ahead, Ron.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Ron Jones. I was recently lucky enough to be on vacation in China, and among the things that made a huge impression on me was how mobile payments control everything. Nobody uses cash, nobody uses credit cards, nobody uses debit cards. They all use their phone for everything. So I came back to Solvang and I'm like, God, I need to try this. And I've had a lot of fun because with Google Pay, I've been using it at New Frontiers, Valley Hardware, Nielsen's, El Rancho, Rite Aid, the new Good Seed Coffee and Bakery. And I know that you can also use mobile payments at Olson's Bakery and the Solvang Bakery, among other places in Solvang. So, but that works for somebody here in the U.S. I've been thinking about all the Chinese tourists that come to Solvang and how can they deal with the system that they know, what would make them comfortable, and especially what would make them want to spend more money in Solvang. So there's two main companies that control the mobile payment system in China. One is Alipay from Alibaba, and the other is WeChat Pay from Tencent. By the way, those two companies rank in the top 10 companies in the world in terms of market value. We're talking, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and then those two Chinese companies. These are huge entities. And I'd like to see Solvang adopt the use of this and really to promote it so that the Chinese tourists spend more money in Solvang. I've been walking through town and I've noticed that Union Pay is accepted in several of the stores here in Solvang, but Union Pay is only about 10% of the use of mobile payments in China. The Alipay and the WeChat Pay control like 90% of it, and we're not using it here in Solvang. There's a company up in Santa Clara by the name of Sitcon, which helps tie together U.S. companies, little mom and pop stores with Alipay and WeChat Pay, and I would like very much to ask the City Council to look into it. I would be happy to talk to any of you to talk more about it and to really promote it. This might be something that is more under the area of Holly or Tracy from the Solvang Conference and Visitors Bureau, but I would like to ask the City Council also to get very involved and help support it and make business in Solvang better for the Chinese tourists so that they spend more money here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron.
I have anybody I can pass this along to? Very good. Thank you.
Tracy Farhad, followed by Sabine Olson.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, audience, and staff. Tracy Farhad, Executive Director of the Solvang Conference and Visitors Bureau, for your tourism update, because we have a lot of great things going on. I was very excited about the numbers we saw through the Visitor Center over Memorial Weekend, and we wanted to do a little check-in to see year over year, how are we pacing, have we been recovering. We reported on that last month up and through April. What was exciting to see is that we are literally within 5 people of 2017 versus 2018 of how many came into the Visitor Center Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday for Memorial Weekend. That's good news. That means we're back, especially since 17 was a record year in visitation. So we're really happy to see those numbers coming through the Visitor Center. Also, you may notice a little change over at the Visitor Center. We did a slight repair to the signage that's out front that you can see going either direction on Copenhagen Drive and also from the parking lot, and now has a very bright blue and white international symbol of I, so that is more easily recognizable by all of our international visitors, including our Chinese visitors. So that'd be good to see that. So stop on by and check that out. I also wanted to say, I'm sure everyone's heard already about our USA Today's Top 10 Best Small Historic Town designation. We received that again this year. We had it in 2016, and then this was for 2017. That's voted on by the public. But what's also exciting is over Memorial Weekend, we were posted, it was a second posting, so they brought it back over Memorial Weekend. We were on MSN's homepage for the best Main Street shopping districts in all 50 states. We represented California. So it was nice to see that across all the computers, those who have MSN. In addition to that, we also hosted a film crew on Sunday from National Geographic Channel. So I wanted to thank the Mirabelle Inn and Restaurant and First and Oak and Chef there specifically for helping us in getting that and having them go around and get some B-roll in around town. So that's it for now, but we'll have more for you in June. So it's looking much better. We're really happy about that news.
Thank you, Tracy. Sabine? Followed by Mike Hecker.
Good evening. I just want to get started. I'm going to read a lot that I had a bunch of questions about the bike lanes. Thank you again for taking the ride with the mayor. It was a lot of fun. I wish we could, next time, could go downtown. So I'm going to read it. It's questions. What we need is to keep up with its time. I just have questions, kind of facts. Not facts, but questions. What we need is to keep up with its time for a better and healthier solution that we can benefit us all, including a 1.5 million visitors a year. This is about why we should have bike lanes in Solvang. Denmark has continued to innovate into green solutions, and in order for this town to stay Danish, we need to do so as well. Why is there no room for innovation of a greener and healthier and more family-friendly town that can help boost tourism and gaining a different crowd of visitors? Why is Solvang taking so long, sorry about that, I've only been living for 3 years, to get things moving in a positive change of bike paths? Why not collaborate with Buellton, Saint-Ynez, Bellet, Los Olivos to get the villages connected to install a scenic and safe bike path? For example, a bike path is installed appropriately when we can have when you can have your 5-year-old riding along with you. So what we have on Alamo Pintado is not wide and not safe enough for children and families to ride on. Have you ever wondered why there are 2 bikes in the bike rack at Solvang School, and just 30 minutes away, Venneberg Air Force Base, the bike racks are filled up with bikes? Why is that? The answer is safe bike path to and from school. Why does it take Solvang, sorry again, home writing. Why does it take Solvang so many years to pave 1.5 miles of bike path by Jim's gas station to the high school, but it only takes, it sounds like a long time, Copenhagen for 11 years to add 290 miles of a safe and very well-connected called a super highway for bikes only that connects 28 towns together. And they all have to work as a team to make it all work. So that is in process right now, and it's almost being done. Most of them will be done in 2018, so this year. Where is the choice for our children and students to be able to use the bike as a transportation? They have to rely on friends and parents to drive them around. They can't safely drive to school from their home. We can't safely cross the road on Mission Drive to get to the other side unless we walk our bikes across. Why is it so easy to say, sorry, is that 3 minutes? Sorry. Okay. Can I continue?
Finish your sentence.
Oh, cool.
Not the paragraph, the sentence.
Oh, I have a whole story. Okay. Okay, so why is it so easy to say no, it cannot be done when we have all the right ideas, plans, people that are willing to make the change? What is this town waiting for? Before I stop, I have I highlighted the area. I have here papers that I've highlighted or kind of took pieces off that is important. What has been done in Denmark. So you kind of get an idea. And this one I made at home. I had a little fun with it, so I'm not too harsh feeling. So it's a little fun of my little artwork of the 1.5 mile. And here I have, really quick, I have the bike path right here, the bike rack on base, how field it is, so I don't just do talk and that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Did you want to
Thank
say
you.
something?
I just wanted to get the correct pronunciation of your name. Is it Sabine or Sabine?
Sabina. but
Sabina.
goes with Sabine.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
There's a town in Texas named Sabine. I'm sorry. Michael Decker.
Mr. Mayor, you're having a hard time with names tonight, huh?
No?
Okay. All right. Good evening, Council. Mike Hecker, Santa Ynez Valley Spoke, bicycle advocacy arm of the Santa Barbara Bicycle Coalition for the Santa Ynez Valley. I am the director. Jim, I just wanted to thank you for going out on a bike ride with us on Thursday, and Ryan, thank you for joining. It was a lot of fun. Did you have fun?
I did.
Good, good. And that really, it hasn't been since you had a driver's license that you were on a bike.
Well, you saw what the quote was.
I saw what the quote. You retracted that.
No, I didn't retract it. I modified it.
You modified it. All right. So I thought it was pretty impressive that we got 25 local Solvang, Santa Ynez Valley citizens out on a ride on a Thursday afternoon at noon. That pretty much just hammers home what a lot of people in our community desire, and that is better bicycle infrastructure. Just like Sabine. Thank you, Sabine, for that. That was awesome. You know, just thank you for going out there and riding with us, and I look forward to tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's going to be a lot of fun. I look forward to the consultant's presentation, and just want to remind anyone who's concerned about funds at this point, funds aren't the issue tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is hammering out a great alignment to the park, and funds will probably most likely come from the California Transportation Commission by way of grants. Very, very little Measure A money will ever see this project. So let's just bury that before we get there. The California Transportation Commission grant process. All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Michael. That's the last speaker slip I have. Does anyone else wish to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll come back to the council for council comments and requests. Would you like to start, Karen?
Certainly. Thank you. We don't normally take action on public communications, but I just wanted to point out that in regards to Ron and his comments about the e-money or phone money, I'm sorry if I don't have the correct term for it. You do have two people in this room that you could directly address, and they're very involved with tourism for the Santa Ynez Valley and, of course, the Chamber. So, excellent. My second comment is that I do realize that our mayor had done an interview with KEYT the day after our original reading of our ordinance regarding cannabis. And what I would like to point out is that oftentimes as a public official, we may speak in public, but the public should realize that one may not be representing the council's opinions as a whole. So I just want to point that out to the public. So anytime I'm speaking, I might not be representing what my entire council thinks or the way they may vote. So I just wanted to make that very clear. That's it.
Ryan?
No comments.
Joni?
I just have two things that I would like the council to consider. And one is we are going to be looking at a contract later on this evening with the Visitors Bureau and approving that. And I think that it is time for us to possibly have a contract with the local chamber. So I would like us to consider that and talk about it. And then the second thing is I'm a member of the Promise Committee for Allen Hancock College. And we are trying to raise funds for students from the San Ynez Valley so that they can go to school free. It costs $1,250 for a year for a student at Hancock. Right now we have 44 high school students from San Ynez High School that are taking advantage of this, and that is a record number of students coming from our valley to go to Hancock. Usually they go over the hill. Well, guess what? They aren't in that district, so they don't get the $1,250 if they go over the hill to City College. They only get it if they go up to Hancock. So I'm just putting that out there for you people. It's a wonderful thing to be a part of, and we're just promising these kids, if they do a good job, that we will help educate them. That's all.
Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone that when a politician speaks, he speaks for himself. A senator never speaks for the entire Senate. A governor doesn't speak for the entire state. He speaks for himself, as I do. So when you see me interviewed, it will be my opinion and not the opinion of the council or any member of the council. So that's to clarify that. I want to say that we had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. It was so good that there was no parking in town. It was that great, and it was amazing. But I think everyone had a good time. I've talked to several of our visitors, and they all expressed that they had a great time with it here. Even the Chinese wondering, celebrating. Go ahead.
Can I make a comment? I'd just like to thank all of the veterans who went out to the various cemeteries and placed the crosses on the graves. It's amazing how many are out there. And if you go out there and the wind is blowing and you see those little flags rustling in the breeze, it brings a tear.
Yeah,
the high school football team assisted with
The high school
yeah,
football,
high
there were a
school.
bunch of other kids too that helped. And my husband always does the one out at St. Mark's because that's where his parents are, one being in the Navy and one being in Marines. So
There were well over 100 high school students participate, and there were well over 800, and I think it was 47 crosses put in Ballard Cemetery. But in the whole valley, there was over 1,000, and that was a result of the American Legion. And in the process, some of the Valley Rotary clubs helped us decorate, or we put a poppy on each of the crosses, and they helped us with that. And we want to thank each of the Rotaries for that. With that, that's all my comments. Item 3, correspondence received by City Council. We just placed one here about opening a dispensary
and there was this
in
one.
the city, a cannabis dispensary. And then also a letter about Senate Bill 54. It's coincidental that I was at a function today where Sheriff Bill Brown spoke. And he mentioned Senate Bill 54 and the handcuffs that it puts on his ability to help the public and for public safety. And he discussed that he was the president of the statewide Sheriff's Association.
Lower. There you go. That's perfect.
You can hear me here, you can hear me here. Which? You want to see my face?
Well, no, this is the base.
Oh, the base. Oh. Okay. Now the Sheriff Brown. He was the president of the Sheriff's Association of the state, and as a group, the Sheriff's Association thought that Senate Bill 54 was handcuffing them, and he's in the process of trying to get that modified. And some of it, the initial writing of the bill was modified by Governor Brown, but it's still not the way that the sheriff believes that it should be. But so
You need to explain. You keep using the number. You need to explain what it is.
So that everyone knows what
Everybody
Senate Bill
knows.
54.
is the bill that gives sanctuary city status to the counties and state, and he's handicapped in the position that one of the things about it is when ICE is notified that there's a person in jail, that if they bail out, if they take a bail and leave, ICE doesn't know about it. When they come to pick him up, he's gone. And that's a hole in the thing that individual gets out and can commit crimes. That's one thing. What's one hole they want to protect. And the letter here is asking us as a city to join with other cities in the Orange County and in San Diego County and so on, in declaring ourselves opposed to sanctuary cities. And I think we brought this up before, but that's the letter. Any comments?
And then, wasn't there another one also? The lady that complained about, or did am I the
I didn't
only?
have a copy of that here. We received a postcard from a visitor talking about homeless and also talking about
Loud music on the bus.
oh, the loud music. That's right, loud music on the buses.
Mhm.
That's right. Yeah. So any comments on that? No.
No, I believe she was also not pleased with the way the Solvang Park looked. She felt that it wasn't kept up to the state that it should be. So she had a number of issues.
She did.
She did not have a good experience on her visit to Solvang.
Okay. Any other comments? Item 4, consent agenda. Does anybody have any items they want to pull from the consent calendar?
I'd like to pull G and H, and I guess the question would be if you're pulling D because you want to discuss or I guess are you looking for a consensus from the council for
To discuss it, yes,
okay,
to discuss a
item D, or just discuss the chamber contract, a potential chamber contract?
potential.
Okay, so that would have to
I-
come back on another.
Right.
Yeah, that
right.
wouldn't be tied to that contract.
Right.
yet. And the finance subcommittee has received a draft contract on that, so there is some.
Oh, so there's something going on.
Yeah.
Oh,
going on.
I didn't, I
That was
wasn't
that
aware.
direction of the council
I wasn't
a while
aware
back.
of that.
Yeah.
But I'm totally open to the council discussing that.
Right.
So if we have consensus, then
On
We can
what
bring
item
that.
is that?
be discussing a potential contract with the Chamber of Commerce, like we have with the SCVB.
You said, I was looking at B. You said D.
D.
D, we already had a consensus that we were going to discuss that, and I believe it's already in the works, because that came up when we were speaking about doing a contract with the Solvang Conference and Visitors Bureau,
Or that we already had one.
that we
So-
were going to consider that with the chamber
Right.
as well.
Right. So when we're still working on that draft contract, and we'll bring that back. I think the consensus was to have a contract with them. So.
Okay. So that'll come back as a, all right.
So
Sorry.
you want to, is
That's
D, you
fine.
want,
We don't have to
So not pull D.
You don't have to pull D.
Okay.
so will you read 4G? So we can discuss 4G?
Adopt on second reading by title only ordinance number 18 next in order, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Solvang amending Title V of the Municipal Code to add comprehensive cannabis regulations.
Ryan?
So I just wanted to bring this one back because primarily because I feel like I'd rather vote no on this one and stop this ordinance. I've done a bit more research. There's a lot of different health benefits that I'm seeing here. I even went to a dispensary, turned into a bit of a family event. I actually got my grandma there and I got my uncle there. We went and checked it out. It's clean. I don't see any problems there. There's a lot of people in there that have, I've been listening to conversations. They have various, health issues from cancer, skin cancer. And I'm going through some of these, like even from organic greens, you got Alzheimer's, glaucoma, cancer, arthritis, seizures, multiple sclerosis. I mean, the list just goes on. And then also, the professionalism in these dispensaries was pretty high class. So I don't necessarily want to just adopt a very restrictive ordinance right away. I also think it's important that the council thinks about people that are still very sensitive to this kind of more controversial subject. Even when you go through this greenhouse kind of, policy for their own customers, it states in here, it says medical cannabis is still a controversial subject for some people, and many of our members prefer to keep private the fact that they consume cannabis. So I think we need to show a little bit of compassion for those that are finding benefit to this, and also recognize that alcohol is a drug, and tobacco is also issues, and I think that the cannabis has less issues when you do research. When you talk about DUIs, the amount of people that get killed in overdoses each year, you get opioid overdoses. So I think this is just a beneficial alternative that some people are turning towards. So my position on this one is to vote no on this tonight.
Well, we agreed at the last meeting that we'd bring back the dispensary ordinance, and I think that would be the appropriate time to talk about the dispensary instead of now.
Well, I'm not really trying to go down that route. I'm just also concerned about just the whole ordinance itself. It's very restrictive, and I'm just worried it might be the prerogative of kind of a past council representation. And so I'm going to vote no on this.
Okay.
Yes, well, our council, I'm the one that supplied the information from the organic greens to the council at the last meeting and spoke about this and how a lot of research that I've done. We even had senior citizens come and speak on behalf of the medical benefits and possibly suggest areas where we might have some sort of a dispensary. I'd also received the email from the owner of Organic Greens Collective, who has invited our council to come tour their dispensary. And I've been to it. It was very professional. I don't like our ordinance as it's written right now. It's extremely restrictive, and although we do abide by state law, we don't have a choice other than to abide by state law. It needs to be looked at more thoroughly, and this is a decision that really needs the input from every single one of our members of the council. And this evening we're missing someone who might have something very important to say.
So would you want to table it and then bring back suggestions for it? Because I think you're going to probably end up with a 2-2 vote, I think. Maybe not. And in that case, it would fail. Right?
So I'll make the motion to decline item G.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Will you take a roll call vote? Well, I'd like to comment on it first, as a matter of fact. I have a very good friend who's a physician, and I pointedly asked him the benefits of cannabis over conventional medical science. His argument is that there's nothing in cannabis that can't be handled by regular medical science, number one. Number two is cannabis is composed of two major components, THC and CBD. THC is the part of the cannabis that makes you high. The other is the part of the cannabis that relieves medical problems. I have no objection to the OBD stuff, OBC.
CBD.
Also,
CBD.
CBD.
I believe in
THCA.
my research, it's the THC is also the same. You can have THC and not get high from that. I believe that's THCA.
Yes.
And in order to actually experience the high, you have to activate it with something, and that would usually be heat or some other carrier.
And the cannabis dispensaries don't separate that. They combine everything in once. So there's a
No, they separate. They
it's highly-
separate. Everything's separated.
Medical, well,
Yeah. It depends on why you're there, because some dispensaries will be recreational and medical. Some are just medical licensed, and they do separate their products, and they do recommend particular products for whatever reason you may be there, whether it's recreational or you have a medical issue.
How do you get a card?
You can go into one of the dispensaries and apply for a card. You have to have, well, as far as my experience, legitimate dispensaries would prefer you to have a prescription from a doctor to get a card. I myself do not have a card. I know that having a card is supposed to be confidential and it's protected under the HIPAA Act. However, if you work for a federal agency, there's no guarantee there. So I mean, I would just recommend caution in speaking to whoever you're getting your card from. It's supposed to be protected under HIPAA just like any type of a medical prescription.
Okay.
I was also reviewing the past voting records. I think it was on sbvote.com or something like that. And it appeared to me that nearly 65% of the voters voted in favor of cannabis.
That was county-wide vote. The citywide vote is different.
I understand.
The citywide vote is 51 to 49.
But we're surrounded by the county.
That's still this. We represent the citizens of the city, not the citizens of the county. The citizens of the city are opposed, are in favor of it 51-49, which to me is a 50%, and it's an iffy thing. And the people that I've talked to in the city, I haven't talked to anybody that says please have a dispensary. Everything I talk about is congratulations for turning down cannabis in our city. Buellton's ordinance is much more restrictive than ours. The city of Santa Maria has a very restrictive cannabis ordinance that prohibits it, and I think that I think it's up to us to listen to our constituents and go in the side of no cannabis within the city limits. Period. And with that, that's the end of my talk, and we'll we call a roll call vote, please, on the motion.
Councilmember Toussaint?
No.
You voted. Your motion was to
I'm sorry, to decline.
Decline. Right.
Okay. So yes.
Wait?
The motion is to decline the ordinance, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Jameson?
Yes.
Mayor
Did I hear a
Richardson?
yes?
Yes.
No. The motion passed.
Okay, that being said, I don't think we're finished. I think we need to come back and massage this and make it more palatable, at least to the three of us.
And I just also wanted to point out that I don't think any of us is considering having a dispensary within the TRC zone. I mean, we were kind of, if at all, thinking of outside the city proper, not in the downtown tourist area.
Mm-hmm. Well, this vote eliminated the whole ordinance.
Right. So
and you're talking dispensary, and we discussed we have a dispensary ordinance that would handle that question.
So what I would like to see is it brought up for discussion with regard to the allowed business uses in the TRC zone, in which case I think we can say no dispensaries, right?
Well, you can provide policy direction as to what you would like done. So if you are interested in opening up the opportunity for dispensaries, then I would suggest you refer it to the Planning Commission to determine which of the zones would be appropriate for that to provide a recommendation, because it will be a zoning ordinance in that situation. Then they can provide you that. If you're looking at solely in terms of business regulation, that would not require going to the Planning Commission, because it would not be a zoning ordinance then.
So then it could be anywhere. Okay, I think we need to take a look at Grover City's ordinance that they have, because they were very selective as to where they put their dispensaries. And
So
I
that's
thought that was relatively a good plan.
So that's a project we could give to the Planning Commission for deciding what zone.
You certainly can give them the project to figure out which zones, with the direction that the sense of the council is, we would like this to be an opportunity within the city Planning Commission, which would be the appropriate zones for that. Provide input on that. Then we can draft an ordinance for consideration by the Planning Commission that would then be recommended to the City Council for adoption, saying this type of use will be permitted in this type of zone, this type of use will be prohibited in this type of zone,
Right.
and
And
so
you could
forth.
do it by area, too. That's what Grover City did. They did it by area. They said, you can have one dispensary in this block. So-
There are also radius concerns
Right.
that you could put in,
Right.
distance from various types of businesses, various types of residential zones. Those are all types of things that the Planning Commission could provide you input on, provided they understand that the sense of the council is that
To
you're
pick a
interested.
zone.
Yeah, to find a place to allow this.
There's a competitive problem here with, we have an ordinance on medical dispensaries as it is, so we're going to have an ordinance bumping against that ordinance?
Well, the recommendation from the Planning Commission may be to repeal that ordinance, if that's the sense of the council as a whole.
I don't understand why we don't work with that ordinance instead of just banning the entire.
Because I think it's too restrictive.
I just want to start from scratch, and I'd like to do exactly what we're talking about here, is send this to the Planning Commission.
Okay, and this may take extra meetings
Planning
so that
Commission-
we meet the deadline,
The
though.
commission went over this ordinance completely and made recommendations, which we agreed with and went along with.
And we
Actually,
can
we
give
did
them
not agree
direction.
with the planning
Agree
commissions.
with them, no, but
Yeah.
they made their recommendations, which indicated that they didn't want marijuana within the city limits.
No, don't keep saying they don't want marijuana in the city limits. That's not what we're saying, Jim. And that's where the newspaper got it wrong. We don't want the sale of marijuana within the city limits. That's what we were talking about. They can
No,
they
we
can
don't want
use
them smoking it in the city limits.
Well, you
No,
can't.
you can't do
You can't do
that.
that anyway,
You
Jim.
can't do that, Jim.
What do you mean
They
you can't
they
do that?
have the right to smoke if they want to in their own.
If we have a cigarette smoking ordinance, why can't we have a marijuana
They can do
smoking
what they
ordinance?
want in their homes.
Well, of course.
Okay, but you're making it sound like nobody can
Exactly.
smoke.
That's the ordinances in other cities in this state, are just like the ordinance we have right here.
I'd like to make the motion to build a wall around Solvang.
With good bicycle trails.
On top of the wall.
Well, the council has spoken on this, so we'll go on to the next item.
Well, there is
So
some
are we-
direction.
but
There is
there's
some
some
direction.
Direction
though.
too, because
So you're referring that back to the Planning Commission to look at
possible
possible
zones.
zoning, and I had also in our last meeting requested that perhaps we have a special meeting because we do have an urgency to get something in place before our emergency
Our
ordinance
emergency
expires.
ordinance is going to expire.
Yes.
Well, yes, that is something that was in the staff report from the last meeting. One of the questions that you may want to answer in providing direction to the Planning Commission is, do you want just medical use examined? Do you want recreational use? Do you not want to limit it at all? Allow the Planning Commission to provide you recommendations. The more direction that you give in terms of the overarching policy decision, then the Planning Commission can take that policy direction and figure out how to carry that out and make a recommendation to you.
May I make a comment? My vote was strictly a vote of compassion for some people that I know who medically need this. They would be miserable individuals and on the risk of not wanting to live any longer. And that's my reason for my vote.
Well, we have-
Compassion.
Well, that flies in the face of the dispensary ordinance. The dispensary ordinance will handle that. And we're running up against a deadline where we'll end up.
So
looking
you're
like
telling me
lump.
we can have a dispensary now in Solvang?
No, we can't have a dispensary now
Okay, well,
until
I'm
we
saying-
reflect the ordinance.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying,
Well,
that
we're
this
go-
will
you're-
cause it. This will cause that now. This will press us to do that now.
Well, we had already discussed that at the last meeting that we would bring it back.
Yeah, but there were other issues in here that evidently some did not agree with.
Okay. Oh, well, on to the next item, which would be,
So this is going to the Planning Commission?
The direction that I understand of the council is that the Planning Commission examine the possibility of medical marijuana dispensaries in particular zones within the city or particular locations and provide a recommendation back to the city council as to what those zones or what those locations may be.
So outside the TRZ zone, for example? or something.
Well,
If that's
wherever
the
they,
direction.
Okay.
their direction, yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Okay, so the direction
Exactly.
would be outside the TRC then.
now the next planning commission meeting is when? That they can handle it. Holly?
That agenda's been posted. You'd have to amend it if you're going to throw that
be-
on there.
would it be would it be a special session or the first meeting in July?
Holly Owen, Planning Director, City Solvang. The first meeting, the meeting for June has been set. It would be possible, given our tight time frame, and we'll have to look at the schedule, to hold a special meeting. It does cost the city some money to call the planning commissioners to evaluate something like this. And I just want to reiterate what Dave said, city attorney said about getting the direction that I would need, so we take this back again for what you all say you want now, and then it doesn't conflict with the rest of the ordinance that we're trying to bring forward. And Joni's right, we're on a fairly tight time frame, so our urgency ordinance doesn't expire.
When does the emergency ordinance expire?
I believe it's
Mid-August, right?
It's August or September. It was
So
in the
we're-
last staff report. I don't
So
remember.
we're naked until we pass an ordinance.
Well, you have an existing ordinance regarding dispensaries.
Right.
The question will be whether or not there are other provisions of state law that will override that. So you're not going to have a medical marijuana dispensary set up location because you have zoning laws that are prohibiting that. It's the remaining type of commercial types of marijuana activities, such as processing, commercial sale, and so on. If there's nothing in prohibiting them, then it would fall in permissive zoning.
We're leaving ourselves naked for those other uses if we don't make the deadline of August, and we'll end up looking like Lompoc.
There you go again, Jim.
Yeah.
Well,
It's the insensitivity that's going on here. It's relating marijuana to prostitution. It's relating, you know what I mean? I'm trying to be sensitive about it, but at the same time, how does it make people feel that might be using marijuana in their benefit for health needs, and they're essentially being related to prostitution? And you know, how is maintaining intergovernmental relationships if we're going to sit here and say, oh, we're going to be like Lompoc, or we're going to be like Buellton? You know, that is not helping our case here is solving. We got to work with people.
we have an image to uphold, and it's not one like some of these other places around the world. I just don't want to see us go down the wrong path there, and I think we are by eliminating this.
So
ordinance
I think
altogether.
we have direction for Planning Commission, right?
I believe so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
Okay. On to item 4H. Would you read that, please?
Ambassador City for Global Kindness Consideration. 4H. Amendment to Professional Services Agreement for the Building Fee Study. Approve an amendment to the agreement with MGT Consulting to allow time extension for completion of the building fee study.
Ryan, since you brought it up.
Yeah. So at this one, could we get a summary again about exactly what this study is, what the deliverables are on this?
Holly's going to work her way back up here.
Aren't you glad you got back in time?
Just in time. Stepped off the airplane, and here I am, ready to serve. Just to remind you, the building fees have not been adjusted since 2004. We stopped recovering our costs based on those fees in 2014. And this was an attempt to do a comparison study and bring recommendations forward to adjust those fees and add some fees at the same time to recover some of our costs that we have when we process building permits. One of the fees, for instance, we are adding will be a technology and software fee. Increasingly, that's how information gets processed and how permitting will be issued, and we don't really have a way to recover those costs. There will also be a small recommended general plan fee to add to building permits. It will not pay for a general plan update, but it helps to recover some of those costs and to build a bit of a balance, a little bit of a bank account in which to offset those costs later. This consultant was selected. We got probably 7 bids from various consultants. They are doing, again, as I say, a comparative study with other jurisdictions. They did some internal interviewing. And part of the reason for the delay at this point was that we had some change in building inspection staff. So we had some information from a previous building inspector, and then there was some change in staffing from code check. So we wanted to give the consultant time to finish the study with the information that he needed. I know he spent some time with Diane Christensen last week at the building department, getting some final numbers from her, and that essentially is why we were asking for an extension.
Okay, and so in this, you're kind of assessing the administration overhead with regard to the cost that the city wants to recoup, right?
Yes, that's part, and part of it was a sort of a time analysis too. How long does it take you to do a certain task? And that took a rather broad overview of different kinds of inspections and different kind of permits. And some of that had really never been analyzed before. I think they took fees from the county when we became a building department back in 2004, and nothing had ever been added or even evaluated for accuracy. So. He had the ability to take a lot of other fees and ask a lot of questions about the process, so we began to recover our costs in a more accurate way.
So this one might be more of a Brad question, but as we evaluate the administration overhead cost, we also do things like charge out to water and wastewater and the transit enterprise funds for administration overhead. And I'm just wondering how much, if at all, this study would relate to that. Are we all of a sudden going to get back something, and now we're pushing to increase those contributions, and which eventually leads down to charging out more of the water and wastewater funds, and then eventually our ratepayers?
This is the cost of running the building department. So
okay.
With those
strictly
those
the building,
the building department,
okay.
Because we have a contract with California Code Check. I think they get 70% of the fees. So
okay.
we need to make sure we're getting enough to cover their fees and our staff, because we have a building technician also on staff.
Okay.
So yeah, this has not got anything to do with water, sewer, or transit. It's strictly how much does it cost for us to run our building department through our contractor and our one employee.
Got it.
That's a higher level study. You're talking about development fees, and those are higher level studies to be done to make sure that you are not charging more than what it is costing you to deliver the service. And usually those are special consultants to do those sorts of fees that you're referring to. These are strictly like electrical permit fees. How much does it cost us to send an inspector out to look at a water heater? Mm-hmm. Issues like that. So I have a whole list that I would be
anyone
happy to
doing
share
a project
with you.
within the city of Solvang would see a bump in their project fees.
Not necessarily a bump.
If this were to
an
determine
adjustment.
that.
Most of them are bumps, and some of them are additions.
Adjustment.
And some of them are, and some of them are additions that we didn't have before. For instance, the technology fee, which we really badly need. We also do not have a adjustment for inflation. I mean, none of these have been adjusted for inflation since 2004. So if you're trying to recover your costs, and your printer ink goes up, and your drive time goes up, and there's lots of fixed costs that they're not. It's an incremental expense to the city that it's best to have a CPI index or some way to adjust those fees, so we don't have to come back every 5 years and do this all over again. Really.
Right.
I'm just kind of.
No, go for it.
Kind of racking my brain as to why this hasn't been looked at since 2004. But also, I'm very sensitive to having, costs flow down to business owners, because I'm pro-business. And I also noticed that we don't have complete infill even in the city yet. So I'm wondering, would we take the current projects that are in the pipeline now and not adjust their fees? Or when would you make this effective? When we finish this study, when would you make this? When
the study is adopted, when the recommendations are adopted by you, and 30 days, I guess, correct?
Okay, because I don't feel like it would be fair
City
to.
attorney would.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it
Also,
would be fair to
I'm
put
just
this
trying to
on
come-
projects that are already in motion.
I understand, and the reality is, it's just at some point it's a, you know, it's a point where you move forward with the adopted fees. So that's for you to determine.
And I'm trying to speak from taking over from the economic committee side that Deuce was prior heading up, and I'm already, you know, there's complaints about how long it's taking to get things through. There, you know, California code check doesn't seem to make everyone too happy. The costs are too high. I feel like it might be discouraging some possibly helpful infill development, and so that's making me a little reluctant to move forward with this study.
I'd be happy to share the information that we have so far and where we're at to give you an update on that. If you want to meet one-on-one, I'll be happy to share with you where we're at in terms of the analysis. And I think that you'll find that it's not, what's being recommended is not onerous. What it is there are additional fees that weren't on the books before and may or may not be used. It just gives us a way to recover our costs if there's a project that involves, you know, a few other steps to complete to make them legal that we haven't had before.
So if we stop this study today, we wouldn't have to pay them the extra, is it $10,000 for the study?
They have not submitted their recent invoice to me. They've submitted a $5,000 invoice, but that was before a rather large amount of work was done in the last 2 weeks because they're moving to completion. So.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in the final phase of it, so I don't remember exactly how much was left in your contract,
right.
but most of it's, probably 3/4 of it's been expended.
Yes, I would say so. And this has also been at council direction. This has not been, it's been supported for quite a while. This has actually been on as part of goals for the last several years too. So again, I'm the one to bring these up and dust them off and research them and find the consultants for you and bring your information to you for you to make your determinations.
Right. I just kind of feel like it's maybe a little bit the cart before the horse, just because I feel like we need, you know, especially through the whole potential annexation process and things like that. There's a lot of people from the community speaking about, you know, how updating our general plan, more of a visioning process, bringing things more to light. What kind of demographics of people do we want to attract? You got even what Ron Jones was bringing up today, which is the payment systems, and, you know, how are we going to attract this kind of tourism today? What kind of tourists do we want to attract? What kind of infill development do we need to attract to keep Solvang current with the times? And I'm scared that we'd be, you know, jumping on this too early when we don't even know what we're really trying to attract in Solvang yet.
I would recommend that we evaluate the recommendations from the consultant who has done most of the work at this point, and then at that time, if that seems to be a direction that you do not wish to head in, then you choose to table it or put it aside. But at this point, I think it would be beneficial for us to be able to recover the cost that we haven't since 2004. We have one of the goals that I believe the council identified was to make sure that you looked at the contributions to the general fund and how you can make sure that what we are charging is contributing in the way that they should. And so this is one of those. I see this as one of those goals.
How far off are we from what other cities?
That'll
come out in the study.
That will come out in the study. Right at this point, since we haven't raised it since 2004, we're off by quite a bit.
My thoughts is who's going to pay for these costs of building inspections? Is it going to be the people that are investing in the city, or is it going to be the city residents going to pay for that? Because somebody's got to pay for those costs that we have for building inspections. Mm-hmm. And if we don't allow the study and we don't allow the increases, then it's our population that's going to pay for it.
Right.
That's where the taxes are coming from. And it's private developers that are developing that. We get the largesse of the city, of the citizens. So I believe that we should go ahead with the study. And at that time, if we find the numbers are too radical or too serious, then maybe we could modify those or table the whole thing.
That is certainly council's
But
right
I also
too.
think we still need to remain competitive, and so just accepting those costs and just passing them on to whoever it may be, I don't think is very fiscally responsible. I think we need to even possibly put California Code Check out to bid.
Well, we've tried.
Well, and that's another that's another
subject
issue.
altogether.
That's another issue. These are internal costs to be recovered. It does dovetail with the code check contract, of course, because they provide us inspector services. But the reality is that their costs to us have been fairly stable. What is not clear is how quick they are in terms of turnaround. And getting some internal plan check services done. Lately I've seen an improvement with them, so I'm hopeful that we're going to be seeing some.
So I'd like
speedier
to see some
processes.
more progress being made on some of these fronts before moving forward with the remainder of the study.
Well, the study it was planned for this fiscal year, which ends July 1. It was budgeted. A consultant was found. And they've done the comparison work already. So this again, much like the annexation feasibility study, will give you the tools and the information to see how are we in the ballpark? Are we too low? Do we want to consider adding these fees? And I especially would encourage that a technology fee be added. Many cities I work for have that. It's a small fee as part of a percentage of a building permit, but it gives you the ability to bring online services to the community, like a building permit service eventually, that they could fill in. Now, these all, and being in the technology business, software costs money. And technology costs money too. Maybe getting iPads for inspectors in the field would eventually be helpful. But it would have to take an individual request on my part to make that happen. And why not have that as part of a fee so we can gradually accrue that money?
And I'm just saying I'd rather look at all those things entirely about where this council wants to go with it before paying somebody to come back with,
We won't know how competitive we are until after the study.
That's not what I'm discussing. I'm discussing
directing. You
directing.
mentioned competitiveness. We'll be competitive with other organizations, and we won't know how competitive we'll be unless we have the study completed.
Well, you can talk in circles all day long about what Lompoc charges, what Buellton charges, what this charges. What I'm talking about is a larger scale item, which is just evaluating where Solvang wants to go with this and directing studies to come back with what information this council needs versus kissing off $55,000 on one study over here look at annexation. That whole
this was
thing
20.
came back, you know what I mean? And the whole council looks at this thing like, we never gave them any direction. It's about how things are being done versus coming up with a vision and then getting the right people to carry out the studies and with the information that we need to do our jobs.
Well,
I haven't seen any thought being put into what we want out of this study.
An RFP was drafted, and it was given to council for consideration. And at that time, the scope of work was discussed, and the goals that were meant to be achieved at that point. Mm-hmm. And that was a direction that was given to staff. And here we are at this point, asking for an extension just to finish out the study by the end of this month.
Okay. I think we've discussed it long enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion regarding the item?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to deny the time extension of item H.
Is there a second?
I'm going to have to second that. I'm going to second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Be a call to roll, please.
Councilmember Toussaint?
Yes.
Wait.
Yes.
Jameson?
No.
Mayor Richardson?
No, that motion fails.
So with that, should we table that until the next meeting?
The contract is going to expire by its own terms on June 1st, so if you do nothing, it will expire. The whole point of coming to council to extend the time is to allow the consultant to finish the sufficient time to finish the project. But if you take no action, which is the current state with a 2-2 vote, no action has been taken one way or another, the contract has a self-expiration date.
Okay.
All right, that answers that question. Okay, for the balance of the consent agenda, is there any other items anybody wants to pull on the consent agenda? If there's none, can I have a motion accepting the balance of the consent calendar?
So I'll make the motion to accept items A through F. Is it best to do we accept all the ones except for the ones we discussed?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll work out.
So motion to accept A through F,
Now, how about J?
I, and J.
There we go. Okay, is there a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Toussaint?
Yes.
Waite?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Mayor Richardson?
Yes. Item 5.
Item 5, Ambassador City for Global Kindness Consideration.
Staff report?
The council asked to have a presentation by Karen Palmer, founder of Eco Angel Enterprises, to discuss and provide staff with direction on pursuit of becoming an ambassador city for global kindness.
And Karen?
I would like to introduce Karen Palmer.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to allow me to speak here. I really appreciate that. I wanted to talk to you about the power of kindness, because the power of kindness can change and ripple out into the world in a way that is so powerful. And when I read a book called Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins and started to learn all of the scientific benefits of kindness, I realized that what if we could have a city of kindness here in Solvang where people were really seeing the benefits of being compassionate and kind to each other. So I wanted to just back up a little bit about why I am the Goodwill Ambassador of Kindness and why I have I'm a founding member of World Kindness USA. I am also a spokesperson for many nonprofit organizations, which we have a social reach of over 30 million. And we are really putting together a program that is going to change our world in a very powerful way. So this is an opportunity for Solvang to become a part of this World Kindness movement, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary. The World Kindness USA has just been launched in April, and so I am a founding member of World Kindness USA. The ripple effect is one of the most powerful things that I want to talk about. Is one person who is vibrating with love in their heart, with peace on their mind, and with kindness in their actions is counterbalancing 750,000 people who are in the low vibration of shame and blame and fear and bigotry. When we talk about kindness in a way that kindness is power, we're talking about looking at our community as having kindness in the schoolrooms, in the boardrooms, in our government, having it in all of our hospitals, and finding a way that we can truly embrace this kindness. I am the founder of the San Ynez Valley Earth Day, which we started in 2003, and that grew to a beautiful expansion out to the botanical gardens out in Buellton. So I'm going to be the Goodwill Ambassador for Kindness. So I will be in charge of pretty much finding the volunteers, putting all of this into play. And what I also am the person who brought the Global Women's Summit here to Solvang in 2014. And since we did the very first Global Women's Summit here in Solvang, we've had over 377 live events touching 152 countries. So that's a ripple effect. And I want to thank Solvang for allowing us to open that new opportunity. And I hope that you're going to be on board to this opportunity for this kindness. What everybody here is talking about with the bicycle trails, working together as a community is going to totally change the way that we communicate with each other. And so that's the ripple effect. You know, we are talking about the benefits of kindness. How about that? What if you could realize that you being kind is good for your health? That it actually lowers your cortisol and boosts your oxytocin, and your serotonin is going to help you sleep better, and you're going to have that feel-good chemical. You're going to be able to work through and inspire more kindness. Don't you want that for the next generation? We're in charge of the next generation here. We're talking about something so empowering here, something that can completely change our world. You know, if enough of us believe in kindness and enough of us believe that this is really powerful, and we're teaching this, we're reaching 1 billion acts of kindness in this coming up 2018 with the Kids for Peace. Kids are doing this. And we as adults, I think, need to start jumping on this bandwagon also. So why kindness in our community? Well, first of all, World Kindness is a coalition of various kindness movements, putting us all together and bringing together the kindness movement in the United States, Brazil, Canada, China, France, India, Italy, Japan, Liberia, Malaysia, Mexico. This is a successful organization. So why should we bring kindness to Solvang? Why should we bring it as an agenda? Well, first of all, it's going to improve all of your relationships. So you're going to be able to have an opportunity where everyone gets to be heard and seen and validated. You're also going to see this increase of energy and this feeling of being healthy. You know, they've actually done studies and they've found that world kindness has affected billions of lives. And people are starting to realize that when they're being kind, they feel better about themselves. They actually have a really increased sense of self-worth, and we can bring that to our schools, to our hospitals. We can bring that to all of our community, you know, and there's so many ways that we can grow this movement with Danish Days, with all of our beautiful events that we already have. So World Kindness is, why is it good for you? Scientific evidence has proven that kindness changes the brain, impacts our heart, increases our immune system, and has been an antidote to depression. We're actually genetically wired to be kind. And this book, an ex-scientist, David Hamilton, shows that kindness has actually evolved in us and developed in our genes. And so how is kindness and compassion altering the neural structures of our brain? It's so incredibly powerful. We're all so hardwired for this kindness to be in our society. And that's what is missing. We're all in this together. You know, that's the only thing that needs healing here, is the illusion that we're not all in this together. We are all in this together, you know? So let's start thinking about being an example. Solvang is such a beautiful prototype, and we can be, it's happening everywhere. World Kindness USA is launched on the back of a 20-year international campaign, which over the last 5 years has seen national kindness bodies established in Australia, the UK, Europe, Africa, Asia, and now the USA. And we would be one of the first cities. We have all these cities that we're doing an actual kindness tour, and one of the advisors is going to be coming here to Solvang and would love for us to be able to sign the Declaration of Kindness. So this is a platform of kindness regardless of your politics, regardless of your race, regardless of your religion, your gender and your sexual preferences, your age, even your zip code. This is a kinder world realized in our lifetime. Don't you want to see that? I mean, I'm here doing this and coming out and volunteering and spending as much time as I possibly can to bring this awareness to every person that I get to talk to, because kindness is power. So these World Kindness Cities are popping up all over the world right now. And USA is an opportunity here for us to see these coming to a city near you. Cities across the world are placing kindness on the agenda to embed the culture of kindness with their communities, from classroom to staff room to boardroom to the corridors of government. We are working to create a curriculum of kindness that will be mandated into the schools so that from kindergarten all the way up until they're graduating from high school, there is a program in place to cultivate the goodness and the kindness, and not to have a cynical look at kindness as kindness is weakness, but kindness is power. We're superpowers here. We have a superhero opportunity here. So as a peak national U.S. kindness body, World Kindness USA can assist cities who decide to start this journey and meet with the KPIs, which are the kindness principles, and possibly qualify. So this is going to bring so much awareness, so much positive public relations for Solvang. And again, the health benefits. 96% of people who volunteer are happier. How about that? Wouldn't we like to have a happier community? People who volunteer are healthier. So this is a benefit to our community. So we can talk about how wonderful it is that nobody need to wait a single minute before improving our world. What if we can do something in our corner of the world today? Looking at this, now you know, you have an opportunity here. So basically, I just wanted to, talk to you about what it's going to be. World Kindness Day is happening November 13th all over the world. It's going to be celebrated. And we are looking to bring this to Solvang for the Kindness Week. And I will be in charge of helping to bring this with our volunteers. Every other month, I'll be getting together with volunteers and talking about what is it that the community is needing? How do we talk about people's needs, and how do we fulfill those needs as volunteers? So World Kindness Week is going to be celebrating the kindness leaders, the people who are in this vicinity, people like therapeutic riding programs and the things, just acknowledging the kindness that already is happening, having a week of acknowledging kindness. And that is my role, will be as the Goodwill Ambassador to help to bring this to the Chamber of Commerce, to talk to the Elvahoy, to talk with, all of the businesses. This is no cost to the city. This is absolutely, there is no fee for you to be a World Kindness City. This is all about raising awareness, utilizing all of our social media. I am a social media expert. I have a huge following, and I have a television show, a TV show that I do online called Global Kindness Going Viral. I am also going to be writing an article, a column for the Star, San Ynez Valley Star newspaper called The Kindness Corner. And so I would love to be able to share that we were signing up for this. People sent me messages to let you know that this is what they want. They can't be here physically, but the city is looking for more kindness. They're looking for more opportunities to be kind. They're looking for more opportunities to volunteer. And they all are, when I said I was doing this, they all said, let me know as soon as as soon as it gets passed, let me know so I can volunteer. So there you go. That's it. Basically, that's the story here. We can ripple this kindness out, or you can just look away and say, I don't know. I don't know. Not really interested in it. It's up to you. I'd love to hear what you think.
Thank you, Karen. Will you take questions?
I would love some
Does
questions.
anybody have any questions? Staff report. Is that a no?
I don't have any questions. Thought it was a great presentation.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much for your kindness. I really appreciate this. I really appreciate this council's kindness. Honestly, I want to really acknowledge the city council, and Brad and Lisa have been so wonderful about bringing this as an agenda. I would love to see this, passed. I would love to see this happening. I would love to work with all of you. It would be an honor.
Well, thank you, Karen.
So this would be, it's basically asking for us to pass a resolution supporting this.
Yeah,
right?
basically what it would be is Michael is going to be coming here, one of the advisors for the World Kindness USA. It would be a real, like I said, public relations. We would, do the signing of the Kindness Declaration, which means that we would just have kinder conversations. And we would have more opportunities for volunteers to become involved in helping to meet the needs of the community.
So you would like the city of Solvang to publicly declare that we would be an ambassador city for global kindness?
Yes, please.
And how do we do that?
You take a vote, I guess.
No, I mean,
think that's what you do.
Well,
It
no, but
seems-
There's always.
Seems like that's what you've been doing.
Karen, who's going to do all of these?
It's
items
just a
here
little
listed?
different, so I'm trying to
yeah,
wrap
this
my
is
head
the
around.
first step. I think we're just
Who's gonna
getting
do what,
information.
Joan?
All of the things that are listed
20
here.
steps or something in here.
Okay, well, see, this is where I come in. I'm going to be the kindness ambassador, the Goodwill Kindness Ambassador. So what I will be doing is putting together the volunteers to put this together.
And you're going to draft the resolution.
They bring the resolution, yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, you sign the declaration, and then that's basically done through World Kindness.
Well, now help me understand, what do the volunteers do exactly?
Well, we're going to be, we're going to get together every other month, and we're going to talk about what are some of the needs that are necessary in the community. One of my big things is bringing kindness to the schools as a curriculum. So I will be working directly with the teachers to have a curriculum and using Solvang School as a prototype of what's possible. So I'm putting together all kinds of, I'm a singer and a songwriter, so I'm putting together musicals and assemblies that will be around kindness. And I'll be bringing together parents and families that want to volunteer to go into the schools, people who want to volunteer to go into the hospitals to help with any, just whatever is needed in the community, what we can work together as a community.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Karen.
Okay.
We'll go to the public for public comment at this time. Is there anybody in the public? I have no speaker slips. Does anybody wish to comment on this agenda item? Jean? Identify yourself, please.
I'm Gene Sincer, living in Quill Valley area. I very much appreciate your presentation. My profession is being a business counselor, and I found it often where people have great ideas and come up with ideas as to what to do, except they're always short on how to do it. And in terms of this presentation, I find this to be a problem as well. I think it's wonderful if the world were kind to each other ad infinitum, However, it would require some minimum starting point that we all can subscribe to and work on, and I think that's going to be the difficult part about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for action. Who would like to start the discussion?
I'll take a stab at it. I mean, I like it. I want to support it. It's family. It's age friendly. Maybe some good PR exposure. I think we also have a kind of a little bit of a national crisis with bullyism and things happening, especially in our schools. That's leading to a lot of problems. It also kind of reminded me of an article I read a month or so back, and it was in the Independent. And I'll just read this one little paragraph out of it. But it says, and this is I guess Eddie Sway, and it says, for the past 3 years, Sway has led a lonely uphill charge within the sheriff's office to change the way deputies interact with people with mental illness. It starts with training. It's about minimizing confrontations and gaining more time to find non-lethal solutions. Fewer officers get hurt, fewer people get shot. Nationwide, half of all fatal police shootings involve people with mental illness. So I guess what I like about this is the overall theme is about finding new and different ways of working with people, training people to maybe, how to deal with feelings of being hurt, things that come out in
We have a program that we want to bring into the schools that deals with the bullying, that deals with the social emotional learning, that has over a 20-year success rate.
There you go. So that's what I love about this, and it's showing a lot of compassion, and it's
It will be implemented, and I will be. I've implemented. Joni knows everything I ever say I do. I'm going to do. Everything that I've ever said I was going to do. I started Earth Day, did the first Global Women's Summit here, and beautiful Joni spoke, and we are creating a new paradigm and a new way of communicating with each other, where we're all on equal grounds here, where we all are being kind and compassionate, and that's what our world needs right now more than anything. And I'll speak for that, because honestly, it takes courage to stand up there and be kind. When you're looking at people that are saying, that kind girl is gonna talk, oh, what's she gonna say about kindness? Honestly, I'm tired of hearing people not believe in kindness. There is scientific proof that when we are kind to each other, that we see a more loving and compassionate world. Read the studies.
Right on, Karen.
Thank you. Is there any other comments?
I have a comment. I see no downside to becoming an ambassador city for global kindness, and I would make a motion that we.
You can direct staff to bring back a
Yes.
resolution.
I will direct staff to bring back the resolution to allow us to start the process of becoming an ambassador city for global kindness.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
We haven't voted yet. We haven't
Take a roll
voted.
call vote, please.
That you're even considering it.
Who seconded?
I did.
Joni.
Joni seconded, but Karen made it.
Councilmember Waite,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Toussaint,
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes, and that passes with a 4-0-1 absent. Congratulations, Karen.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. It's going to be awesome. You're going to be grateful you did it.
We're going to be having, I think, a long discussion on the next item, which is the Tour California. Shall we take about a 10-minute break at this point?
I think it's item 5 would be the goals, right?
No, item 5. Next is no. There was a change in the agenda.
Oh, okay.
So item 6 is Tour California.
I'd prefer not to take a break.
You would prefer not to? Okay, we'll go through it. Fine. Staff report. Item 6. Will you please call item 6?
Item 6, 2019 Amgen Tour California Host City Consideration.
Staff report.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, this item was brought before you because there's potentially some interest in bringing the Tour of California back to Solvang. It is a multi-stage professional cycling race that goes across the state of California. Next year would be the 13th year of the event, and the dates would be May 12th through the 18th. There are 17 professional teams that race in the event this year. Solvang and the San Ynez Valley hosted the time trial in 2007, 2008, 2009, and then again in 2011. The city was approached by 2 local business owners regarding the possibility of returning as a host city. Corey Evans, the owner of Dr. J's Bicycle Shop, and Kurt Norgren of Carmichael Training Systems are reaching out to the community to see if there's support to bringing the San Ynez, the event back to the San Ynez Valley. I've included in the staff report some of the items that were required in prior years. There has been some changes since the last year we hosted it. If you remember, I think it was 2012, we looked at considering it, and the cost had increased quite a bit from what we had done in 2011 and chose not to do it. So it's been 7 years, so I will state that the numbers that are in there are 7 years old, so my guess is those would probably go up. But one of the things we do as the host city, the city council would be committing to any expenses that are required for the event. In past years, we set up a local organizing committee who fundraised for that and was able to raise, in 2011, I think they raised about $100,000 towards the event. That cost about $120,000 in that particular year. So staff's really looking to see if you want us to continue to pursue this. The official notice has not gone out. The race just finished a couple of weeks ago. And so this is anticipation of that potentially coming to see if there is interest from the full council for us to pursue it. You're not committed until you sign on the dotted line, but with the letter of interest would get you potentially discussing possible routes. They look at north to south, south to north. They look at a variety of different routes. I think when we were looking at it before, they always had about 4 or 5 different areas they were looking at. So I'm not going to go through all the requirements. I think Matt and Kurt are here if you'd like to ask them any questions on that. But I did include the requirements for the time trial that were in for 2018 in the packet. Obviously 2019 will be different, but they look similar to what they had requested in the prior year, so I think they're getting pretty stable on what they're requesting. There are options for a start or a finish city. Those are other options where the race would start here and then end somewhere else on the Central Coast, or start somewhere in here. Those typically don't give you as much exposure as a time trial where you're on TV the whole day, all day long. But when you're in a time trial, it's a closed route, and so I believe we closed that route for about 8 hours when we did it in the prior years. So those are the factors you'd want to consider. One other addition since 2011 is we now have the Wine Country Half Marathon that happens every Saturday before Mother's Day, and so that would be the Saturday prior to the race week. So you would have back-to-back closures of that similar route, because Ballard Canyon is one of them that they use for that. So that's really just kind of tossing it out there to see if the council would like staff to continue to pursue that option, and I'm here for any questions.
Any questions of staff report?
I was a part of the LOC the last time we did it, and it's a lot of work, but there's a lot of fun to it, and to see those pictures of Solvang, free advertising, folks. See those pictures of the aerials of Solvang and the surrounding valley. It's priceless, unbelievable. And we as long as it's sunny, there was a shine to it. It was very special.
Brad, has the LOC been formed?
No, I think they're in the initial stages of that, so they're looking to develop that.
I would just want the public to know that in considering this, I'm very sensitive to the needs of our businesses here, and I know in the past some of the obstacles to this have been business owners and residents feeling that they might have lost money because people can't get out and about and get to their businesses, and residents not being able to get out of their homes during the trials. But I really would want to try to find a way to work around that, or make it as easy for everyone involved. And I think that can be done if you give a lot of advance notice and put a very positive spin on this. So that would be my only concern with this, and it's not a concern that would change my mind. Of course, I obviously would love to have this happen, but I think we do have to be sensitive to the citizens and to our business owners.
Any other questions of staff report?
I just have another comment. You can make it a party. We had a block party at the end of our street. It was on Alamo Pintado. We had a barbecue, and we served probably over 100 people. We didn't even know 3/4 of them. But they came, and we visited, and we had a great time, and we had perfect seats. We watched those guys go by, and the gals too at that time. It was exciting. It was, I think you cannot be limited to just that day. Don't be tunnel vision about how good it will be for the city, because I think it puts us out there on the map again. And I think as the weekends come and go, that there will be people that will come to Solvang because they saw us on television.
Let's go to the public for public comment. Mike Hecker.
Hello again, Council. Mike Hecker, San Ynez Valley Spoke. Joni, those things are still happening. People still come to Solvang in the San Ynez Valley to ride bicycles because they saw the valley on the Tour of California coverage. In fact, I do believe on the Thursday Mayor's Ride, we had a tourist see us and come visit us and join us on the ride, and he approached Mayor Richardson and he told him the whole reason he came with his family and his friends to Solvang is because he saw the Tour of California on TV so long ago. It's the only way he knew about the place. So yes, the advertising is priceless. There's all sorts of ways that we can mitigate the problems Karen brought up. You know, I've personally served on 5 local organizing committees, 3 in Santa Barbara and 2 here in Solvang, and it is a very rewarding experience. And everything that you mentioned, you know, block parties, early notifications, perhaps maybe the time trial isn't the fit, but you know, maybe a finish is a fit. Who knows? I mean, you could have a finish and have a circuit race that would be a smaller loop that would still be able to provide you all those visuals that you want on TV, because the racers would be doing a loop of, say, Alamo Pintado and Ballard 2 or 3 times before they finish in Solvang. Who knows? I'm just throwing other options out there. But closing the door on the Tour of California tonight isn't really a great option. I think you should, you know, put it to motion to support the concept of moving forward and researching this further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Andrew Economon.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Andrew Economon. I represent Chumash Enterprises on behalf of the Cork Hotel and Hadston House Hotels. We're very supportive of the tour, personally and professionally, all the way up to the chairman of the tribe. And we really want to explore this further and look at what the true cost will be both to Solvang and to our enterprises. I will say that some of the things that Karen brought up from challenges have already been addressed. Solvang Chamber has reached out to every business member, and they had a 100% unanimous yes vote on exploring the tour coming back. So business people are actually saying, yes, this is a good thing. And in fact, I've had some personal experience with that. People saying straight up, some of the busiest days they've ever had in years were during the tour days. So it's not exclusive of a win-win situation. Again, we do support the venture of going forward with this, and we'd love to see the council move forward with it and do the exploration, see what the true cost is to the community and to the businesses here in town.
Thank you, Andrew. Corey Evans.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Corey Evans from Dr. J's Bicycle Shop. A lot of what I wanted to say has already been said by previous speakers as well as Brad and Joni, and I think the big takeaway is that this is a big commercial for the San Ynez Valley, and as Mike had mentioned, people, they still come here because of the Tour of California, and it's put cycling on the map in the San Ynez Valley, and I think the economic boon to the valley, both the day of the event, but more importantly, the days after the event is really what you should all consider when looking into the possibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. I have no other speaker slips. Does anyone else wish to come up? Please come forward and identify yourself.
Good evening. I'm Kirk Nordgren with Carmichael Training Systems, and I'm, along with Corey, one of the local people who decided we wanted to be catalysts to bring this back. With Carmichael Training Systems, I actually have the opportunity of traveling with the Tour of California every year for the past 6 or 7 years. So we travel along with the teams, and I've seen every start city, every finish city, every time trial location, and it was almost exactly 2 weeks ago that the time trial was in Morgan Hill, and it was, it's a downtown area. I don't know if you're familiar with the city. It was my first time there, and it was packed with spectators. There were, packed outdoor restaurants, just throngs of people there to witness the race. And obviously there are businesses affected, because people are there to watch a cycling event. They may not be there to do some of the retail shopping. But the restaurants and the hotels would definitely, have a big impact. And I was actually very surprised to hear how unanimous the Solvang City Chamber of Commerce was in supporting this. And Corey and I are going to go speak with them next month. They've asked us to come talk a little bit about what this would look like. So I think it would be a great benefit to the city of Solvang. There are obstacles to overcome. I think there are some creative ways to work around them, and I think we just need to continue to move forward in trying to make this happen.
Wasn't Carmichael Training, wasn't that as a result of the Tour of California in Solvang?
No, not necessarily. I mean, we actually happened to open up here that same month,
right?
But they weren't necessarily related.
Oh. I thought you saw the benefit of what we had going, and that you formed it.
You should have said yes.
You could say yeah because we want.
The business that I work in has for sure benefited. I mean, it was one of the primary reasons that put this location on, a cycling tourism destination map. The other thing I wanted to mention, I talked to the president of the Department of AEG, Anschutz Entertainment Group, that owns and operates the Tour of California, and she said, "I would love to come back to Solvang. I can't wait to get some more able skeevers." So
we could fix that up.
And all the interactions I've had with them, kind of testing the waters on this, is that they're very eager to return, and I actually think we could, maybe bargain with them a little bit harder than we have in the past to get, create terms that we want to have, and I think they'd be receptive to those because they loved it when they were here and they want to come back. So thank you
very much. Are there anyone else who wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for action. Who'd like to start? Joni?
Sure. I'll make it really simple. I'm going to make a motion that we investigate this further.
I'll second.
Whoa.
We're going to submit a proposal.
Could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Jameson?
Yes.
Toussaint?
Yes.
Wait.
Yes.
Okay. Mayor Richardson?
Yes. That passed 4-0, 1 absent. Now can we take a break? We'll take a 10-minute. Back at
we're going to need a new chair.
25 after. I need to call again or something. recess. So we're on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item 7.
Item 7, updated city council goals.
Staff report.
As a result of your April 23rd, 2018 Public Goals Visioning Workshop and consultant interviews with the City Council and staff, there were 6 goals that were deemed to be the City Council's highest focus. I'll go through those 6. I won't go to the sub parts of those, but just the main one. So B1 was benefit to the community at large. C was to create economic diversity. E1 was to enhance the quality of life in Solvang. E3, enhance the quality of life in Solvang. Well, I guess I can't do it that way then. But that was more with sports, team sports and the trust lease and city-operated facilities. I1 was to improve the city's financial stability, and M1 was to maintain and improve intergovernmental and agency relationships. There was a discussion at the end of that workshop that we would bring these back individually to more refine them. So what you have in the staff report is the compilation by your consultant, and these are those 6 goals. So we didn't really pick 2 to work on. We talked about doing 2 at a time. So I'm not sure if the city council would like to take one tonight and try to delve into it further, or give us direction to come back with more refinement on the goals, 1 or 2 goals at the next workshop or council meeting. So we didn't really understand how you wanted to address it, but we wanted to get it back out before you with the summary of the 6 goals that you created. So staff has done that.
Any questions?
Just comments. I'm glad to see it on the agenda, and we did represent to the public that we would be discussing goals. So I'm in support of getting that going. So
that was not a question.
no, I know. I said I had a comment.
Yeah, comments come after public speaking.
All right.
Always for action. That's okay.
Take it back.
Yeah. Is there any other questions of the staff report?
No.
With that, we'll go to the public for comment. Susan Bott.
I'm Susan Bott with Save Our Solvang. And last meeting, I spoke to the issue of growth being one of the city goals. I was pleased that the council had dropped goal A1, address future growth issues, down below the major city goal status, and that the sphere of influence to be considered was to be that which was already within the current Solvang SOI. Now it appears that according to Mr. Hayden's workshop report, growth has been categorized again as a high priority, although the terminology is a little different. And the sphere of influence to be considered makes no mention of current as opposed to future SOI to be studied. Since the staff report did not detail these 4 resources permitting goals, I'm not sure which version may be up for consideration. In other words, there's the staff report, and then again there's the Hayden report. And the Hayden report does delineate the 4 goals. If these following 4 goals are to be examined and perhaps pursued by the city, I'd like them to be spelled out by staff in their report rather than just listed in Mr. Hayden's previous report as an attachment. I hope that the previous wording stating current or existing sphere of influence as City Council had decided would be restored to that document. Also, in the second of the highest focus goals, C1, it says create economic diversity. City Council had agreed to state that the augment tourism industry with development goal was to specify infill development, not just development in general. Both of these goals directly apply to the issue of stating growth as a general goal, which we do oppose. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Susan. I have no other speaker slips. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for action and discussion. Who would like to start, Karen?
All right. Well, my opinion on the item growth, pertain to infill, and you're absolutely right, that needs to be specified. So, right, and
so just to clarify, we did make a commitment to the residents that we were going to be taking one or two of these goals per council meeting for a period of time. So I'd just like to know if there's consensus that we still continue down that route, and maybe tonight what we do is just focus our attention on dialing in these goals a little bit more, fixing some of these, clarifying, such as, the poorly worded augment the tourism industry with development, maybe fixing these things up so that we can then have a better drafted form to then take one or two at a time in the next council meetings.
I agree with that.
I think small nibbles are better than a big bite. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we'll focus our conversation on dialing these in for that intent. I think we should focus on the overall, get a good draft in, and then the coming council meetings.
You want to set a priority of them all, or do you think that the priority as it is be the way to do it?
We could discuss that. I'd just like to just get a clear consensus for how we want to move forward with this. So, and my standpoint again is I'd like to go over all these as an entirety and craft them a little bit better for a better presentation later on when we do take those slow bites.
Okay, so you want to, okay, start.
So maybe we should just start with B1 and just go down from there and make any modifications there, and then just move on to the next one until we get through all these.
Okay.
Then we can discuss priority and
okay.
Things like
is
that.
there any change anybody wants to make to B1? I think that was that's a goal that we wanted to find a way that we could finance the stormwater management program without including the residents of the city to have to pay for it.
An additional water bill, yeah.
So we'll leave that on.
Okay.
C1, economic diversity. Augment the tourism industry with development. How did you want to define that?
Infill development.
Infill?
You don't want to create a shopping center.
Yeah, because I feel like this one kind of stemmed from economic diversification and infill development. Is that so? How can we better word?
Augment the tourism industry with infill development.
Just add infill.
Okay.
Okay. Annex properties in the current sphere, I imagine that is, right?
Well, I think it should read, should owners wish within the SOI to the west wish to annex into the city, we would encourage light industrial uses.
You want to say the western sphere of influence?
We only have, well,
we have the other one over the east side, yeah. Right. Annex properties in the western.
No, don't even say annex.
And so annex prop. Okay.
Say that. Should owners
So
within the SOI to the west wish to annex into the city.
how about like I'm just going to take a shot at this, but examine uses for properties in the current sphere for light industrial uses.
And that's that.
We can't do that. The owner has to come to us.
I understand.
The owner has to want to come in and annex to us.
Right.
We can't annex their
But do we
property.
need to specify the owner in the goal, or?
I think
Okay.
it clarifies it.
Okay.
And I think we have to definitely put in current sphere of influence.
Yeah,
That's what I
right,
said.
right,
Yeah. So
right.
current.
Sphere. Okay.
So what's the final wording on that one?
How is that's the question? It would take the word annex out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to put it in the text, but it's not at the beginning.
Not going to beginning. Okay.
Yeah, you lost me, so.
Okay.
Yeah, we gotta dial this in.
Owners within the SOI to the west wish to annex into the city would encourage light industrial uses.
That's like a paragraph.
So did
Is
you
there-
want the examine, I thought we had to have examine.
Current
Right.
sphere.
So examine.
Or how about restrict the SOI to the west to light manufacturing only?
Well, you want manufacturing in there.
Or,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm sorry, light industrial uses. Just restrict
Matt,
that. Restrict
you got an
that.
idea? That works, and that kind of implies that
But
you'd
if they're
be
still in the sphere, you can't really you can't do anything. They're in the county.
Right.
So the annex piece is where you have control over what could go into it. So
okay.
So what is the wording again? Did you get it, Lisa?
I've got it on the tape.
Thank you very much. And then educate the public on the need for economic diversity.
I think we have
a question.
Is current going to be in there or not?
current.
It should be our current.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
current, probably existing.
Right, the existing,
Yeah.
right, the existing. Okay, educate the public on the need for economic diversity. Any changes? On to E1, enhance the quality of life in Solvang, expand and improve bike lanes, and/or install sidewalks in areas lacking accessibility, continue to evaluate transit needs. No changes there? Okay. E3, enhance the quality of life in Solvang, increase park acreage for team sports. Revisit the lease with Santa Barbara Trust for Historic Preservation of Lot 72. Examine city-owned properties for possible reuse. No changes there.
Just
Okay.
a suggestion, since E1 and E3 have the same title, would you like maybe E3 to be enhance the recreational quality of life in Solvang? Because those three are
Yeah, we got to do
tied.
something to fix
That's
those
what I
titles.
That threw me off reading them too.
Yeah.
So
The recreation quality, yeah. Okay. I2, improve the city's financial stability, reduce unfunded liabilities, and achieve more sustainable programs. No comments? Okay. Finance needed capital improvements. All right. M1, maintain and improve intergovernmental and agency relations. Continuation of ad hoc committee with the San Ynez Band of Chumash Indians. Pursue enhanced library services with Buellton and alternative funding opportunities.
At this point in time, I think we should remove Buellton from that.
Isn't that,
Mhm.
okay. Delete the word Buellton from that item. That. Work with the Santa Ynez Community Services District and Los Olivos on wastewater needs. No changes?
Well, I would put in there on their wastewater needs.
I think we have our own wastewater needs though too, and since
No,
they
but I
have,
don't think that's what we want to include in there. I don't think we want to,
Yeah,
We may
yeah,
have to be
we have to have
standalone.
discussions with those two organizations as to their access to our wastewater treatment plant.
Mhm.
That's what I believe that meant.
Wait, I'm sorry, can you re-clarify what you're trying to explain?
work with the San Ynez Community Services District and Los Olivos on their wastewater needs.
Got it, okay.
you want maybe analyze in there?
Well, I guess I
Analyze
just-
their needs or something like
Yeah.
that.
I guess I just question it because if they have 20% share in our wastewater treatment plant, then, you know, this is a work together kind of thing. Kind of like how we squawked it when it's all of a sudden showing up on their agenda about, you know, some of the things there and not really involving Solvang. You know, if we're going to complain about that, I feel like we got to set the example and work with them on our needs as well.
I
Cause
mean, they did ask for additional capacity, so the
Right.
analyze may be the more better word. I mean, it's not saying you're. I think what Joni's saying is if you say work with, you're sort of committing to some solution maybe. Whereas analyze is you're looking at what we can do.
What's good for us.
Okay.
We have to,
Yeah,
we have to.
right, we have
protect-
to be
and I'm just
pretty
speaking
selfish
from
on
the,
that idea.
I'm just speaking from the point that we might have some large costs coming up with regard to our wastewater treatment plant, and they're going to have a share in that cost, right?
Well,
Yes.
Community Services District.
Right,
It's
not
that's-
Los-
It's
but not Los
automagic. They-
Olivos.
Right. I'm only speaking more for CSD.
So you could separate that into work with San Ynez Community Services District on their wastewater needs, and then analyze Los Olivos wastewater needs. You could separate
That
the
works.
two.
Yeah.
That way you're working with your partner,
Mm-hmm.
and you're analyzing the potential new.
Right.
Well, at the meeting that I went to, they have washed their hands of
And-
those leavers.
Well, but Solvang hasn't.
No, but community
Yeah,
services
right.
has said.
So that way you're separating the two.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
just-
the title is maintain and improve intergovernmental. So I think we need to talk about working with people, not.
Be kind.
Be kind, yes.
Be kind.
So just add the word analyze after and, between and loss.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Work toward long-term water purchase agreement with ID1. No question on that one. All right. There are several other goals that are determined to be high priority goals, resources permitting. Do we want to discuss any of those?
Do we have a listing of the sub goals here?
That's- we go
They're
to the
on
agenda.
page 123
Yeah.
of your staff packet. Or
Page
page
123?
120
to 108.
I'm looking at 123.
Or 101 if you have the old one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go. Do we want to investigate those goals? Following
Well,
four
we don't
goals.
even know if we want to do those.
That was the question of back.
Well,
here,
I think the goal was to kind of prioritize the
main goal.
the main goals, but that doesn't mean that some of these sub goals shouldn't be talked about or discussed to refine for just sitting there on the list. It's not saying that we're not working on those or that we don't want to accomplish any of these. It's just trying to give the council direction on what we need to be focusing on to measure our own performance.
Can we put these, table these four goals after we concentrate on the original goal?
I think that works.
And then,
yeah.
and then put our attention on.
Are there
these
any
other goals.
obvious issues with these ones? That anything that doesn't make any sense? Or Susan, you want to?
Yeah, the.
Why don't you come up and?
Okay, sorry. That was the A1, I'm sorry. A1 was the main one. I really don't want it to be hanging out there somewhere where it says expand the sphere of influence, because that was the whole point. That you had, city council had agreed that they would
and
not be
pursue a possible
expanding.
annexation study would be out of date now since we already had the study.
Right, and the one above it too.
Mhm.
Expanding the sphere is not, it was supposed to be working with the current or existing sphere of influence.
Okay.
Would that be okay?
So what are you suggesting with A1?
Delete possible
Yep.
annexation study.
Yeah. Delete pursue possible annexation study, and then change the wording because we're not doing the modification and updating the general plan to expand the sphere of influence.
So remove those first two bullet points?
Well, I think we still
need to
need
look
a
at
general
it, but-
plan update. I like the last one, which is engage in public outreach for future visioning process, and I don't consider this a visioning process. I want to make that clear. So I'd be more amicable to maybe just modify and update or pursue update general plan update.
Yeah, I'm looking at his notes, which are further back, and it said update the or modify and update the general plan to examine the sphere of influence. And he wrote expand in his notes.
You did it, yeah,
but
it should be examine, it should be
The sheet on
examined.
the board said
Oh, yeah.
examine.
Okay.
And then he also said pursue a possible annexation study of the current SOI.
Well-
So he didn't add current SOI on that line from what was written on the board. He's got pictures of those further back in the packet.
Right.
So we could.
Okay, so expand those bullet points.
Yeah, that would, I think, more of what Susan heard at the meeting. Yeah.
Well, there again, though, we don't offer the annexation. The owner comes to us. I think we learned that from our.
So what about
You
like
can.
examine possible uses within the current SOI? Is
Except
that-
we've already back here said that we're going to do
So then maybe we
light
delete.
industrial uses.
They already limited
So
it.
maybe we delete that.
Yeah.
Delete annexation at all from A1.
So I remember speaking about really defining our urban and or rural boundaries And I don't see that anywhere in here, but I know that
That was my last point. I'd
that
like
was
to
a
have
bullet
some-
point I
right.
specifically made, because that would fall under our general plan.
So yeah, I would definitely like to see some discussion around urban growth boundaries, and I'd like to get further educated on it and get staff input from that.
Would that reach in the engaged outreach for visioning process?
I think that would be part of it, and that'd be part of educating the public on our options.
So how do you want to state that?
So maybe, well, I think we should prioritize. So you got engaged in public outreach for future visioning process. You need a vision in order to update your general plan, right? You need a vision to pursue any, what type of growth are you guys talking about? What's the plan? How can we make that more transparent? So I think that engage in public outreach for future visioning process should be number one.
Under A1.
And then you could put in update the general plan.
These are just bullet points.
Right.
And we can just shuffle the
Yeah,
bullet
so
points.
second bullet point would then be
Update general plan.
update the general plan.
Shuffle the bullet points.
And also discussion around urban growth boundaries.
Yep.
Is that you got one yes?
That's yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
I don't have a vote.
No, that was agreeable. We just shuffle the bullet points and
Got
I just want to learn more about urban boundaries, so.
learn more about urban boundaries.
Mhm. They aren't necessarily a good thing.
E4, evaluate the capital needs of the city. Any comments in that area? I1.
Let's
improve traffic.
slow down a second.
Where are we now?
E4.
E4.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That looks fine to me.
Okay, I1, address the why is this in italics? Address the feasibility of a bypass and encourage
Well, address the feasibility of a Highway 246 bypass near Santa Rosa Road is number one. And number two is encourage Caltrans to accelerate the reconstruction of the 246 Alamo Pintado Bridge.
but why is it in italics?
There's several mistakes in this whole thing here, so I think it just needs
You
to
think
be
it was a keyboard
fixed.
problem? So it looks like it's something that should be
Probably just
highlighted.
copy and pasted from different sources.
Okay, well, those are fine. I thought we had, oh, never mind. Okay, on to W1, work toward water independence. Is there any, we did say negotiate with ID1 as one of our major goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if we could almost make this whole W1 some kind of a subset of that bullet point.
I think you're just trying to define which is the priority for the council. So if the prior goal was on the priority list for, how did it read, Brad?
It was work for a long-term water agreement with ID1.
Right.
So I think that was the priority.
So I think-
You had a majority of the council voted that that's a top priority. I don't know that you want to blend that with all
Yeah,
of these.
because I think we're recognizing that that's something that this council
Right,
can
you
do.
could, yeah.
In the short term, that or get done in the near term. That's going to benefit the community the best.
There's one of the bullet points, pursue conjunctive
is.
use with ID1.
Yeah, so
You're doing-
that could either move up or it'd be part of that long-term agreement you're talking about. So that you want to take it out of the
Yeah,
W1
yeah.
because it's already in the other?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pursue new efficiency of the restaurant. Then down below that is E2, enhance the quality of life in Solvang. That was listed here for informational purposes only. Do we want to discuss any of that?
Just out of curiosity question, this would be more for you, Dave. That 2% TOT increase, I think that results in what, nearly 700,000 per year in revenue?
It's a sixth of, it'd be a sixth of 4 million.
4.7?
Yeah,
right.
3.
Our total TOT?
Yeah.
Is
There you go. So roughly 700,000. So can we craft a policy around that 2% increase, or that amount of money per year that the council uses it to do certain things for the benefit of the community? In other words, it can't just get absorbed into.
You know, it's a general tax. You guys can do whatever you want on a policy basis. So yeah, you could set that up.
Yeah, one of the concerns that you have, though, is if you earmark it specifically as part of the increase, then becomes a special tax, has to be approved by a higher number of voters.
Okay.
If you do it on a policy level at the council, say this council will expend that 2% for the following purposes, that can be changed by subsequent councils.
Yeah,
But
so it doesn't bind future councils,
Exactly.
but we can, because I just see some benefit in a policy like that to make it things a little more transparent around how much money we're giving away in grants and how we're earmarking that.
Well, I believe you were given, the budget subcommittee was given some direction on the grant distribution, so you
Right.
do have.
So that would fall in line with
Yeah,
that, but I'm just
yeah.
trying to make the rest of the council aware of that.
Yeah, but I think what Dave's saying is you could take that, when we went from 10 to 12, you could take the difference and allocate it to something, but it can be changed by the future
Right.
council, right?
Okay, and then here was one: revisit business license program and fees in effort to increase general fund revenues. That's one of the the very bottom of the list. Okay, with that, then, do we want to prioritize the main goals?
Yeah, let's get back.
These are in alphabetical order.
So you want to just pick two to work on first? Is that
Pick
what
two
you mean
or
by
one or
prioritize?
two
Or order them or something like
Oh,
that.
okay.
Are these? They're just in alphabetical order. They're not in the order of priority that the
Yeah,
council
he-
put on the
he
board,
just-
right?
There's, yep,
Just
no
alphabetical.
Just read
priority.
the letter at
Got it.
the first word.
I got to get back there.
B is benefit.
Right.
Yeah.
So is there any particular priority you want to work on? You know, one of the new things coming up right now is the bike lane thing.
Yeah, I'm going to say we're already working on that, so I
why
would
not? Yeah.
prioritize
Might
that.
be the top of the thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's E1.
E1, B's number 1.
And E1 was rewarded to.
We left E1, although you could say, if you want to give that a little more clear, you could say transportation quality of life. I mean, that, because those are transportation related.
Okay.
And then recreational for the second one, because bikes are how's that work?
Okay.
This is Rick. Thought I wrote that down someplace. But. So that's number 1. Is E1. You know, this state mandated stormwater thing is coming up soon. I wonder.
Oh,
if
that
that's-
would be a good one. Yeah.
It should be kind of on a higher priority, because we want to resolve that before we have to spend the money. You know. So we should make that number 2.
It got me on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
E1 number 2.
And I think that one was one of the top picked items.
There's B1. E1.
Bingo.
Bingo.
Why don't we just do those two?
Those
and
two
then-
first?
And then come back and.
Come back and.
And do we want to do 2 in one sitting, or just do 1 per?
Some of these things could be quite involved in discussion.
So maybe just do 1. I mean, we're not in any rush. We're.
Yeah, I mean, we can prepare some background for both, and you can get to what you get to. That's, if you remember last year when we went through the visioning, we sort of just kept continuing it down.
I think we should just do 1.
Separate them?
Let's
Okay.
just do 1.
So we're going to enhance the quality of the transportation? How are we saying that? E1.
Yeah. So the first one we'll do will be
enhance the quality of
Just set them all there so
transportation.
we can walk through.
Yeah,
them.
and we'll give you some, we'll talk
Yeah.
about different
Okay.
potential options
We
and
can
things, yeah.
concentrate on all 3 bullet points under one heading.
Okay.
Give you a little history. Okay.
Instead of separating
Yes.
them out any further.
Is there a way we can get these updated goals on the city website sooner than later, just so it clarifies things with the public?
Now that we've cleaned them up, we can put them on there.
Okay.
Lisa can put them on there tomorrow.
Just so people, they have time to
Well,
think about them.
These goals now, they're
Our
essentially,
official
they've
goals.
corrected these are their adopted goals.
Mm-hmm.
We can
Then
make a
why are we
motion to
coming
make
back
sure
to
that
refine
happens.
each one? Shouldn't I put, these are the draft?
These are the draft, yeah. That way people can go on there early, they can start looking at them. If they have something that they want to focus on, they can watch for when that's going to come about the council.
Do we need any kind of a motion for any of this?
I think just direction, right?
Okay. Are we done discussing this?
I think so.
All right. I think next item is committee reports.
Well, I'm actually, I would like, before we get to committee reports, if it would be all right, I would like to make a request to bring back an item from the consent agenda, item H, for reconsideration. There was no action on that.
All right.
Put it in my binder. What is that?
Is there any question about doing that? We can do that as agenda item, all right?
Yeah, just so that we had some discussion briefly during the break, so just so for the public's understanding of this, because there was no action taken on item H, it was a 2-2 vote, nothing happened on it. So it's still pending until the end of the meeting. You can take a look at it again. With other matters, say for something that had passed by a 3-1 vote, there would be a more formal provision of a motion to reconsider under Rosenberg's Rules of Order, where someone who was in the prevailing side could make a motion to reconsider the item, and then it would be considered anew as if there had not been a motion. In this particular case, there was no action one way or another, so it is still hanging out there until the end of the meeting, and the council can take it back up for further discussion and potential action on a motion.
All right, so we're going to recall item 4H. Will you please read that item?
Item 4H, amendment to professional services agreement for building fee study. Approve an amendment to the agreement with MGT Consulting to allow time extension for completion of the building fee study.
Well, just give us a brief staff report.
You awarded a contract for a building fee study to MGT Consulting. They have not been able to complete it in the time allocated, and we're requesting an extension to allow them to complete that study.
Any questions of the staff report?
Yes, I have a question about how that is handled when you have a 2-2 vote. And a reason why I bring this up is because several months back we did have a 2-2 vote when I wanted to stop the payment in the warrants going to Bartle Wells. And I've been looking through each warrant since that day and time, and I have never seen a payment going to Bartle Wells.
Okay, I don't remember the specific action on the Bartle Wells warrant, but a 2-2 vote results in no action. Nothing happened, in other words. So there is no approval, there is no denial. It is as if nothing happened on that matter. That's the
So
issue.
if there is no approval, can the check go out to Bartle Wells?
Well, I don't know the circumstances behind that particular one.
If
I don't know if it came up again at a subsequent meeting.
So if there's
if
an
there was-
issue that was in the warrants, and there was a 2-2 vote, no action for approving a warrant going to any company on there, can that money still go to that entity and then not end up in our warrants?
I'm not sure how to answer that, because there's a whole bunch of ways that it could happen that the money could be approved. If there's authority within the city manager or the department head to issue payment for that, the warrant register typically is an affirmation of action previously taken. It's for informational purposes. You can approve and you can withhold payments, but if an amount is budgeted and you've given direction as part of the budgetary process, it's possible that certain warrants could be approved at a lower level. It really depends on the specifics of that particular meeting, whether there was any action taken later on in the meeting, whether or not there was delegation to a city staff member to follow up and approve it. I just don't know enough about that particular situation to give you a solid answer on that warrant.
So if that warrant then went out of our checking account after that meeting, then shouldn't I as a council member then be informed in the next set of warrants that this payment went out?
So our warrants are done after the fact. So all those payments you see have already been made.
Okay.
So with Wireless and Wells, we went back and got a refund from them based on that payment. We renegotiated that last payment.
Okay.
Which I reported back.
Okay, so that's not going back and getting money from them. That's renegotiating the payment to them. So how much did end up going to Bartle Wells?
I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay.
That was several months ago.
So that's my question. How much did go to them, and why didn't I see it in the warrants? Because I don't think that's very transparent.
Well, it was already there, though.
It's a credit.
It was already in,
Yeah.
in the warrant. The check was gone. It had been paid.
That,
Yeah, it was a revenue back. They wrote us a check.
so where am I going to see this transaction?
It wouldn't. those don't come to you. You don't see the revenue checks. Or the
I
income
understand,
checks.
but
I can get you a copy of it. We can go back and get it. But yeah, we had already issued that check. All of our warrants are always post. They're done. So I went back and negotiated and said, hey, we want to get some of that back, and we got to, honestly, I don't remember. I thought Neil had asked. I thought I reported back on that.
But it was never told what was in. But me, I'm just looking at the warrants, waiting
Yeah,
for
it's
that.
not going to be in the warrant. 'Cause the warrants are money we send out.
Right.
This is money we received.
I understand. The impression I had was that money still went out, but it was for a lesser amount. I was told that it was renegotiated for a lesser amount and the money was sent out. Now I'm being told that it was already sent to them and then they wrote us a check back.
Yeah, that's what.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Now, that was a good question. The subject was good. We have a staff report on that, and Karen had a comment.
Yes, I do. I'll kind of go back to what I had, the way I had voted during the whole discussion about annexation and our study. And we had already put a considerable amount of time and money into that particular study. And so I was actually for continuing the study just so that we would have all the information available to us to make a correct decision. So I was faced again with item number H, kind of a similar thing, where we have put a considerable amount of money and time already into paying a consulting firm to examine our building fees. And then I also had noticed after I had voted to kind of to not approve this, to stop it, I have noticed in our goals, one of our goals, R1 was to revisit the business licensing program and fees in an effort to increase general fund revenues. So I found myself, I actually was in conflict of how I actually would have or should have voted on that. And I do understand that a number of these studies were put in motion before this council came on. And a number of our studies do need scrutiny, but I would like to amend my vote on this
You may
item.
make a motion.
So if I could do that, could I make a motion to...
Yes, you would make a motion however you want to make the motion. I don't want to presuppose one way or another what the motion is.
Okay, I'd like to make an emotion, or excuse me, motion.
Not
I would
an
like to...
That's okay.
I'm so emotional about this.
And I'd just like to point out, I'm coming from a standpoint that I'd like to see this council engage more in a visioning process and forward thinking to drive studies, not just out there throwing money at some of these studies. And I'd just like to point out, we also have it on our goals for infill development and economic diversification. So I still think that even that, conflicts with just pushing out for this study prior to. And with regard to spending money on a study and stopping it, I really just don't see that even if you wanted, for some reason, to continue to get the numbers from the annexation study, it's not like you're going to have to start that from the ground up. We can go back to them, the same thing. This could be resumed. I don't think they're going to come back and say, oh, we have to start all over from scratch. If a decent amount of the work has been done, then it's been done. But I'd rather resume it with giving better direction prior to just pushing forward with the study. So.
I understand what you've said. I feel strongly, because this is actually one of our goals that we all decided was important, that we should continue with this study. So I would make a motion to allow an extension of time for the completion of the building fee study.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
And just for clarification, is it the staff recommendation because the extension is to June 30th? Did you want to make it June 30th or some other time?
I'll take the staff recommendation.
Will you accept the change in the motion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Waite?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Mayor Richardson?
Yes.
Councilmember Toussaint?
No.
That passed with a 3, 1, and 1 absent. Okay. Anything else? Then we go to committee reports. Is there any committee reports besides mine?
Yes.
Would you like to give yours first while I get ready?
Okay. I attended the Community Services District meeting, I guess it was last week, and they are still wrestling with how to create a blue ribbon committee to examine their study for their wastewater treatment plant. And they had an application that I thought was very lacking, so I made a few suggestions how they could improve it, and they followed the suggestions, and they improved their application. It was very, I don't know. They're really behind the crunch right now because they have to approve the study by a certain time, otherwise they do not get the grant monies that they have applied for. And we were there, remember when they were discussing that. And my second report is on the library. We have a county library advisory committee tomorrow, and there is a great deal of uproar about the 20% and the 5% being used to fund libraries. So I am assuming that this may all just go away. We will see what happens. The Board of Supervisors has to act on it again. They have to clarify what they passed. We all were of the understanding that the 20% charge would only be on the per capita, and now they're saying no, it's on all funds that are brought in.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And that was a decision made by who?
That is the interpretation by General Services and the City of Santa Barbara. No, the Friends, well, we're not sure now.
So are the supervisors going to revisit
They'll probably revisit it, yes.
In the meantime, are we going to pay or what?
Well, we don't know yet. That's what our meeting's about tomorrow.
Oh,
How to take a stand.
Library wars.
Oh, it's very interesting.
Well, I'm reporting on SBCAG and APCD. The consent calendar was a Measure A South Coast Bicycle and Pedestrian and Safe Routes to School to authorize to sign an amendment to include the City of Goleta and mid-block crosswalks. In the actual agenda items, Senate Bill 1, Cycle 1 Competitive Program Awards, the SBCAG made application for the awards. It happened that CTC did grant their awards of $183 million for the widening of 101. That adds to the other couple of $100 million that they've received, and is enabling the project to be completed. Most of segment 4. Their segment 4 is broken into 4 subsegments, A, B, C, and D, and I think it's going to be cover up to segment 4C, but I could be wrong. Peak hour rail service. Received a peak hour rail service and intercity rail capital awards. They were awarded, there was an award, a cap and trade and intercity award. I have to review that a little closer. There was a review and recommended approval of some SBCAG, some minor wording in the SBCAG bylaws. And then the 1-minute reports that each member of the council made. And I believe I mentioned the workshop we're having tomorrow on bicycles. And I also, no, it was too late for that one. Okay. Caltrans made a report on their project and repairs throughout the state, including the Santa Barbara County as for State Highway 192 as a result of fire and the flood. And they're replacing 4 bridges on that, on 192. And that's just about all the... I did mention the, and Brad mentioned it on his last comment, was the Skid Mesa light that was going, the letter that went to Caltrans asking for approval of the light at the base of Skid Mesa. Oh, yes, and I did ask Caltrans while they were there, is there anything that we could do to accelerate the construction or reconstruction of the Alamo Pintado Bridge?
Mm-hmm.
He filed that away.
Yeah, I think there's 3 things you asked them for: is the Alamo Pintado Bridge, and then what were the 2 others?
Well, the light. The
light, okay, and then, what was the $300,000 study for?
Well, that was, oh yeah, that study was. I don't think we talked with Caltrans specifically about that.
Mm-hmm.
That item was brought up that the grant has been approved for a $300,000 grant with a match from the Shumash of $25,000, of SBCAG for $25,000, making it a $350,000 grant to study Highway 246 between the 101 and the 154. And I tacked on a request that the study include a potential bypass through Solvang as a part of that study, because I think that's I mentioned that it's
Mm-hmm.
a bottleneck.
Right.
It's a bottleneck in the along the highway, and that they ought to consider that as part of their study. APCD. We did budget, and the proposed budget and the resulting comments on that are staff reductions, outsourcing the IT, reduced management by reducing a position in management, restructuring their organization, and the budget is down 0.5% over previous year as a result of all that. So that was the main discussion with APCD. With that, that's the end of my report.
Just for your information, I guess we weren't televised tonight.
Sorry?
It didn't go out. We weren't televised tonight. It didn't go out.
So why didn't it? Cable or YouTube, both?
Cable.
But YouTube. Oh, okay. Okay, so our normal live streaming to YouTube is working.
Oh, poor Jeanette. Poor Jeanette's going to be sitting at that counter looking.
We ride on Lompo's cable channel, and so if we're not on Mondays, they're not. So they
Okay.
We don't have a contract for it. So they just don't use Monday.
And that's when Lompo's council meeting is on Tuesdays, I think. Yeah. Okay, with that, then we go to closed session. Would you read that, please?
I know, that's what I'm saying, that's our budget.
You want me to announce it?
Read the closed session.
Item 11, closed session, Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiators, agency representative, designated negotiator Dave Fleischman, city attorney, employee organization Teamsters Local 986.
Okay, we're adjourned to closed session.